Okay, so everybody knows that we love the HD6 series of headphones from Sennheiser, and that's because they're great. But they're not perfect, and it's worth knowing what those shortcomings are, and it's worth also considering, if one of those shortcomings is a deal breaker for you, what you should get instead. There are many headphones that are not the HD6 series worth considering, and today I brought with me Cameron and Griffin, and that's what we're going to talk about. I want to get your guys' take on what you think the biggest shortcomings are of the HD6 series. And when I say HD6 series, I'm talking about the HD650, HD600, and HD6XX, not the HD660S or 660S2s, because those are less good. So what are your guys' the shortcomings that come to mind for you guys?
This isn't necessarily a complaint I have when I'm listening to headphones, but I know a lot of other people find them to be kind of boring. So if you're the kind of person that, isn't really looking for a neutral or potentially boring headphone listening experience, I actually think the 650 and 600 might not be the best option for you. I obviously have hella respect for the 600 and 650, but I do have my issues with it. I would say my main issues are probably top of head comfort and the treble response, particularly when it comes to the 600. How about you, Cam?
Mine is somewhat similar. I mean, actually, I've got a bit of a pro to talk about with the comfort, which is that I have a massive noggin, and this is one of the few headphones that actually will go down past my ear if I want it to. The range of adjustment on this is great. So that's something which I can't find in many other headphones, and one of the reasons why I do quite like it. The biggest issue for me is honestly something which quite a lot of people complain about with this headphone specifically, which is that you basically get no soundstage. But yeah, for me, this is a very headphone soundy headphone. There is just no kind of out of your head or distance effect at all. And that's kind of one of the biggest issues with the tuning for me, and something which I think bothers quite a lot of other people, even though a lot of the rest of the tuning is, as is commonly described, pretty excellent.
In general, I think it's a headphone that, while it has an incredibly well-earned reputation for being neutral, natural, all of those good things, it does kind of lack in the fun department for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people find that it's not the most exciting is because of that lack of bass. These roll off pretty damn early. Not having pretty much any sub-bass, to be kind of blunt, is a bit of a problem.
I have two complaints with this headphone that I can't fix as a enjoyer of this headphone. One is that the pad wear-in gets kind of annoying with this headphone, because like say you buy a new pair of pads for this headphone, it'll brighten it up a bit, but then fairly quickly it'll kind of darken again in the rest of the treble there. So you gotta keep replacing the pads, which starts to get expensive if you want to get that same sound signature. The other annoyance that I have with this is the clamp force. So I have a big head, and yes, this does improve for the clamp force once you kind of wear it in a little bit, and if you bend out the arms here a little bit, you can improve the clamp force. But I find even still, for people with massive heads like me, the clamp force, it's a bit of an issue.
They are definitely clampy boys. It does improve a lot once you bend the metal out a bit, though.
So those are our collective gripes to do with this headphone. And I'm sure there's more that we can think of. Like, it's to echo what Griff said, it is not the thing that is the store demo grab your attention kind of thing. It's the kind of thing that you appreciate for its natural tone over time. And some people are looking for not that. So in the spirit of that, what are your guys' alternatives to the HD6 series?
Yeah, so my pick for a more fun, vibrant, bombastic listen compared to the 6 series, while still having a lot of the same strengths as the 6 series, is actually the Sony MDR MV1. Now, this is a very different headphone in terms of its stock frequency response. It's got a lot more bass extension. It's got a lot more treble, particularly in the kind of low to mid treble transition area around 6 to 8 kilohertz. And while it might look a little bit scary on a graph, I find this headphone to be exceptional sounding as far as like a implementation of a V-shaped signature, for two reasons. For one, it does the colorations of extra bass and treble in a way that works a lot better for me than other V-shaped headphones like those from Beyerdynamic or Meze, for example. But it also has an incredibly linear mid-range response. It's a little bit steep in terms of its tilt, so it's quite a warm, kind of cozy mid-range response, but it's still very linear, and the timbre of voices, guitars, pianos, all of those mid-range elements is still very well intact. But then, of course, with that extra treble and that solid mid-range, you get a lot of bass, really good extension, really powerful kind of hard-hitting bass, especially at this price category where I think it's probably kind of a benchmark for that. So I think it's like the 6 Series in that it gets the industrial design really, really right, but it's a completely different take on sound reproduction that is a lot more fun to listen to. And for someone who finds the 6 Series boring, this is a perfect antidote for that. It's definitely not as neutral as the 6 Series by any stretch, but it's a lot more fun. And I find that when like watching movies or listening to things that aren't strictly like audiophile music, I have a lot more fun listening with the MV1 than I do with, say, an HD 600 or 650. But what about you, Cameron?
So I am going for the Hyperman Edition XV. This is actually a new model which they've just put out, and it's similarly priced to the HD 600, 650 kind of realm. It's about $399 if I remember correctly. And this just kind of addresses most of the specific things that I had an issue with on the HD 600. I'm picking this rather than something like the Edition XS, which I talked about in the value list video we did recently, mostly because this has ever so slightly lower overall treble than the Edition XS does, which is something that it's then sharing a little bit in common with the HD 600, for instance. And so I think this is a bit more of a drop-in replacement, but fixing some of the issues. The biggest thing that it fixes is the bass. The HD 600, as said, kind of rolls off pretty substantially, whereas the Edition XV is just flat down to 20 Hz. It also addresses the spaciousness effect, and it stages really quite nicely, primarily by having a little bit of a 2 kHz scoop, and that's something which, it's a bit of a trade-off between timbre and tonal accuracy versus that spaciousness effect, but for me, this kind of gets it right. And actually, I think a little bit more so than many of other Hyperman headphones, and I think that this is going to be something which a lot of people that like the HD 600 but want a little bit more bass and want a little bit more soundstage are going to find a really appealing option. This also, they've made some pretty big improvements to the overall build, industrial design, and comfort. This headband is new. It's using the sort of suspension strap approach from some of Hyperman's other models. And I think it just looks really good. It fits me very well, and it's got a nice range of adjustment as well. So for me, Resolve, and other large-headed folks, you're not going to have any kind of problems. So yeah, I think the Edition XV for me is a surprisingly good drop-in replacement with some improvements versus the HD 600 series.
Yeah, that makes sense. I look forward to I look forward to getting a chance to hear the Edition XV and some of the other
same. I really want to hear that headphone.
This is, I think this is like one of the first units available because they haven't got stock everywhere yet. So I got the unit that they'd taken to CanJam to show off, and we'll have some coverage coming soon. My
pick for an alternative to the HD6 series, it's going to be the Beyerdynamic DT9. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be an off-the-wall pick here. No, it's going to be an off-the-board pick here. I'm going to go with the Aun AR5000. And that's not because I think it sounds better or even equivalent to the HD6 series. I think I still prefer the sound of the HD6 series and the HD550 as well. But my reasoning is this. For anybody who likes the idea of a more mid-range focused kind of sound signature, a warm tilt kind of sound signature that you might get from an HD6XX or 650 or something like that, but you don't want the clamp force that the HD6 series has, the Aun AR5000 is kind of that. And it is a great platform for doing EQ as well because it is very comfortable. And again, it's not doing anything necessarily better than the HD6 series sound-wise. I think I'm less a fan of the way it handles the treble compared to the HD600, for example, and 650 as well. But it does some of the similar things where it kind of focuses the sound more towards the mid-range. So you get that kind of lushness coming through, and it's going to be an all-day wearing kind of headphone. Where maybe the HD6 series is going to have too much clamp force for you. But I have to stress that's for big heads only, because if you have a more normal sized head, I actually think the HD6 series is one of the more comfortable headphones that you can find, period.
Now, while I agree that I think for smaller than Andrew or Cameron sized heads, the HD 600, 650 are like a pretty solid chassis for comfort overall. As a person with a smaller head, I actually have pretty significant comfort issues with the headband of the 6 series. So if you're the kind of person who shares those issues, I actually recommend the capper strap, which I have here on the HD 550, but it is available for the HD 6 series as well. For someone like me who has never had an issue with the Sennheiser clamp, but has constantly had issues with the top of head comfort, I actually really find the capper strap to elevate that headphone's comfort like stratospherically. But if you're the kind of person who doesn't know what type of headphone comfort actually works best for you, this is where I'm going to plug headphones.com, who has a great return policy, so you can try things out for a significant amount of time, up to 365 days, see how it actually works on your head, on your ears, and if you don't like the way it sits on you, you can always just return it. So yeah, definitely just wanted to plug headphones.com there for a second because they support us, they support everything on this channel. So if you want to support us and what we do here, definitely consider making your next headphone purchase at headphones.com.
Slight closing discussion question, because I think one of the reasons why the HD600 is kind of so legendary is it was probably one of the earliest headphones to get a lot of the major tuning aspects, particularly, getting close-ish to an HRTFE response. Literally decades before most of the industry even figured that out. Do you guys think the HD600 is still a worthwhile purchase today, or has it now kind of been overtaken a bit?
Well, it's interesting that you frame it that way, because I would say the main thing that they got right on the HD6 series, particularly the 600, it really is that balance of bass, mids, and treble, like just across the board. It's the kind of thing where there's nothing that really stands out too much in any one particular way, and it feels like so often there are many headphones that will do better in one area or another, but it'll come at the compromise of that overall natural balance. No headphone is perfect, and every headphone has compromises. It's a struggle to find headphones that are better all-rounders than these, and more versatile than these, and are more natural sounding than these. And that's why when there is a new headphone that comes out that might be a successor or a worthy successor, we all get very fired up about that. We all get very excited because for that particular kind of even spectral balance that this headphone has, it's still one of the best.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As you say, kind of as a balance of compromises, even if some headphones are, more comfortable or more engaging, more spacious, more detailed, more dynamic, whatever, I think in terms of all headphones, this is probably the one that does the least wrong of any of them, and the one that makes the fewest trade-offs, even when it comes to the non-sound factors like the industrial design, the comfort, the weight, the durability, the user serviceability. There's so much to like about this design, and frankly, it's so inexpensive compared to so many other headphones that either sound worse, are built worse, are less comfortable, or are less technical. Like, I know it's a $300, $400 headphone, but I do think this is an underrated headphone for things like detail. It's absolutely still competitive today, and I think that's the reason why, most people still enjoy it.
So yes, I do think that it is still worth buying today. I don't know, I probably wouldn't say that it's what I would buy necessarily today, given, I prefer, some of the comfort benefits of something like an HD 490 Pro or Sony MDR MV1, or maybe for closed-back use case like the Odyssey Maxwell, something like that. But the HD 600 and 650s are still, in my book, great value.
Yeah, no, I think what people should be walking away with after this video is, the HD 600 and 650 are probably the first headphone they should consider in this price range when thinking about buying a headphone. But it's absolutely not the last headphone they should consider. And if they know that, the comfort isn't going to work for them, or they want something engaging instead of, boring, or they want something with a lot of bass, this isn't going to do that. So it's not the end all be all for everyone, but as a first choice, it's extremely respectable.
And that's going to do it for this video. Let us know your thoughts. If you guys have heard the HD6XX, does it have no soundstage, as Cameron said? Does it matter that it has no soundstage? Are you missing the bass? What are your HD6X06 series alternatives that you recommend that we might have missed in this video? There's lots that we can also think of, but we just haven't mentioned them. And give us your reasons why. But if you're looking for more information on any of the headphones that we've mentioned in this video, or if you're interested in some of the measurements that we may have done on them, that will be at forum.headphones.com. We'll leave that link in the description. And as always, you can chat with me, Griffin, Cameron, and other like-minded audio enthusiasts in our Discord, also linked below. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye!